The woman behind the hospital billing desk said it so casually, like she was reading off a routine checklist. Your remaining balance will be covered from your secondary account on file. I blinked at her. My what? She turned her monitor slightly, tapping the screen with a pen. Your surgical reserve account. It's still active. My stomach dropped. Because I knew exactly what that account was. Or at least, I thought I did. The last time I had asked about it, my parents told me it was gone. Used. Drained. Necessary. And now, standing there in a hospital hallway, a stranger was telling me it still existed. My name is Lauren, and I'm 29 years old. Before I go any further, if you connect with stories like this or real, emotional, and sometimes uncomfortable truths about family, consider subscribing. Only if you genuinely feel these stories matter. Because what I discovered that day didn't just change how I saw my parents. It changed everything I thought I knew about my life. I remember gripping the edge of the counter slightly harder than I meant to. I think there's a mistake, I said carefully. The billing clerk frowned. No, it's right here, she said, scrolling. Account was opened about 5 years ago. Linked under your name. Secondary payer. 5 years. That was around the time everything started. Around the time my health issues became serious. I swallowed. Can you show me? She hesitated for a second, then turned the monitor a little more. There it was. My name. A balance. Not huge, but not empty either. $18,420. My heart started pounding. That's not possible, I said under my breath. Because 2 years ago, my parents had sat me down at the kitchen table and told me something very different. They told me the surgery fund was gone. All of it. Every dollar. And at the time, I had believed them. Because why wouldn't I? They were my parents. They had been managing that account since I was in my early 20s. It started when I was diagnosed with a condition that would eventually require surgery. Nothing life-threatening at first. But progressive. Expensive. Unpredictable. Insurance covered some of it. But not all. So my parents insisted on creating a separate fund. For your future, my mom had said. So you don't have to worry. And for years, I didn't. I contributed when I could. Small amounts here and there. A few thousand over time. But most of it came from them. Or at least, that's what they told me. I blinked and looked back at the screen. That account hasn't been used? I asked. The clerk shook her head. Not recently. Last withdrawal was about 8 months ago. 8 months. Something about that timeline made my chest tighten. Do you have a statement? I asked. She nodded. I can print a summary for you. Please. A few minutes later, I was sitting in the waiting area holding a thin stack of paper that suddenly felt very heavy. I scanned the transactions. Deposits. Small withdrawals. Routine stuff. Then I reached the bottom. The most recent activity. A withdrawal. $22,000. Dated 8 months ago. I stared at it. Because I knew exactly what happened 8 months ago. My sister's wedding. Everything inside me went quiet. Not confused. Not shocked. Just clear. Because suddenly, the conversation from 2 years ago came back to me. Word for word. We had to use the fund. There were expenses. It was important for the family. At the time, I didn't question it. Because my sister, Megan, had always been the center of everything. The golden child. The one who got the big celebrations. The big support. The big sacrifices. And me? I was the understanding one. The one who didn't make things difficult. The one who adjusted. So when they told me the surgery fund was gone, I accepted it. Even when it didn't fully make sense. Even when a part of me felt uneasy. I told myself it was temporary. That they would help me later. That family takes care of each other. But now, sitting there with actual numbers in front of me, I realized something. They didn't use all of it. They took what they needed. And left the rest. Without telling me. Without explaining. Without asking. I folded the papers slowly. Then unfolded them again. Just to make sure I wasn't misreading anything. But the numbers didn't change. $22,000. Gone. Right around the time Megan had her perfect wedding. The venue. The flowers. The custom dress. The destination honeymoon. I remembered how proud my parents had looked. How my mom had said, we wanted to give her everything she deserved. And I remembered standing there, smiling, pretending I didn't feel anything when I heard that. Now I understood why. Because they had given her everything. Including something that wasn't theirs to give. I sat there for a long time. People walked past. Nurses called names. Phones rang. Life continued. But for me, everything had shifted. Because this wasn't just about money. It was about trust. And once that breaks, it doesn't go back to the way it was. I got up and walked back to the billing desk. Can I get full access to this account? I asked. The clerk nodded. You'll need to verify some information, but yes. I want everything, I said. Statements, transaction history, all of it. She looked at me for a second, then nodded again. Of course. As she started processing the request, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. Hey, honey, how did the appointment go? I stared at the message. For a second, I considered ignoring it. But then I typed back. It went fine. A few seconds later, she replied. Good. Don't stress too much about the bills. We'll figure it out. I let out a small, humorless laugh. We'll figure it out. That's what she always said. Whenever something didn't add up. Whenever I had questions. Whenever things felt unclear. And every time, I trusted her. Not this time. Because this time, I had proof. And proof doesn't disappear just because someone explains it away. I slipped the papers into my bag and walked out of the hospital. The air outside felt colder than it should have. Or maybe it was just me. I sat in my car, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Running through everything in my head. The account. The withdrawal. The timing. The lies. Because that's what it was. Not a misunderstanding. Not a miscommunication. A lie. And the worst part? It wasn't even hidden well. They just assumed I would never check. That I would trust them. That I wouldn't question it. And for years. They were right. But not anymore. I started the engine. And for the first time since leaving the hospital, I wasn't thinking about my surgery. Or the cost. Or the stress. I was thinking about something else entirely. If this is what I found in one account, what else had I missed? I didn't drive home right away. Instead, I pulled into a quiet parking lot a few blocks away and just sat there with the engine running. The papers were still in my bag. I could feel them. Like they were heavier than they should be. For years, I had trusted my parents with everything related to my medical situation. Appointments. Insurance. Savings. That account. They handled it all. And I let them. Because I thought that's what family did. Now I wasn't so sure. I turned off the engine and pulled the papers out again. This time, I went through them slower. Line by line. Date by date. Looking for anything else that didn't make sense. At first, it looked normal. Routine deposits. Small withdrawals for tests, prescriptions, consultations. But then I noticed something subtle. A pattern. Every few months, there were withdrawals that didn't match any of my medical expenses. Round numbers. $3,000. $5,000. $2,500. Not frequent enough to stand out immediately, but consistent enough to mean something. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. Started listing them. Dates. Amounts. By the time I finished, the total came to just over $34,000. $34,000. Gone. And I had no idea where it went. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes for a second. Because now the $22,000 for Megan's wedding didn't feel like an isolated decision. It felt like part of something bigger. Something ongoing. Something intentional. I opened my eyes and did the one thing I should have done a long time ago. I called the bank. After a few minutes of verification questions, a representative came on the line. "Hi, I'd like full access and control over my surgical reserve account," I said. There was a pause. "Currently, the account has joint authorization," she said. "Would you like to modify that?" Joint authorization. Of course. With who? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Primary cosigners are listed as Daniel Carter and Susan Carter. My parents. I closed my eyes briefly. "Remove them," I said. There was a slight pause. "I can begin that process, but it may require additional verification and documentation." "That's fine. We'll also need to confirm any recent large transactions," she added. "Good," I said. "I want to review all of them." As she explained the next steps, I felt something shift inside me again. Not anger. Not even sadness. Control. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I was taking control of the situation. After the call ended, I sat there for a moment longer. Then my phone buzzed. Megan. Of course. "Hey. Mom said your appointment went well." I stared at the message. Then another one came through. "Also, we're thinking of doing a small family dinner this weekend. You coming?" I let out a slow breath. Family dinner. The timing almost felt ironic. Because for the first time, I actually had something to say. I typed back. "Yeah, I'll be there." She replied almost instantly. "Yay! Miss you." I put my phone down. Miss you. That word used to mean something. Now it just felt empty. Because if she really missed me, would she have asked where the wedding money came from? Would she have questioned it? Or had she known all along? That thought sat uncomfortably in my mind. I started the car and drove home. The entire way, my thoughts kept circling back to one thing. I wasn't going to confront them immediately. Not yet. Because I needed more than suspicion. More than numbers on a page. I needed context. Proof they couldn't deny. Proof they couldn't twist. Proof that made the truth undeniable. When I got home, I went straight to my desk. Opened my laptop. And logged into my email. I searched for anything related to the account. Keywords. Dates. Nothing at first. Then I tried something different. I searched Megan's name. A few emails popped up. Mostly normal. Family plans. Wedding updates. Then one subject line caught my attention. Budget discussion. Dated 9 months ago. Right before the wedding. I clicked it open. It was from my mom. Sent to my dad. And accidentally. Copied to me. I must have missed it at the time. Or ignored it. But now. Every word mattered. We're short about $20,000 for the final payments. The venue won't hold the date without it. I felt my chest tighten. We could move some money from Lauren's account temporarily and replace it later. I stopped reading. Just stared at the screen. Because there it was. Not an assumption. Not a guess. A plan. Written. Clear. Deliberate. I scrolled down slowly. My dad had replied. Do it. She won't need it right now. We'll figure it out before her surgery. My hands went cold. She won't need it right now. Like my health was a scheduling inconvenience. Like my future was something they could borrow from. I kept reading. My mom responded. I feel bad not telling her. My dad replied again. It'll just stress her out. Better to handle it ourselves. Better to handle it ourselves. That phrase hit harder than anything else. Because it sounded responsible. Caring. Protective. But it wasn't. It was control. And now I understood something I hadn't fully realized before. They didn't just take the money. They justified it. To themselves. To each other. And probably. To Megan. I closed the email slowly. Then leaned back in my chair. Everything was clear now. The withdrawals. The wedding. The lies. The missing fund. It wasn't mismanagement. It was a decision. A choice. And I wasn't part of it. I sat there in silence for a long time. Then I opened a new document. And started organizing everything. The statements. The transactions. The emails. Dates. Amounts. Conversations. Because if there's one thing I had learned from all of this, it's that truth matters a lot more when it's documented. And when the time came, I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to ask for explanations. I was going to present facts. Calmly. Clearly. And let them explain themselves. The family dinner was in 3 days. And for the first time, I wasn't dreading it. I was ready for it. The 3 days before the dinner didn't feel like 3 days. They felt like a countdown. Not the anxious kind. The kind where everything is already decided, you're just waiting for the moment to arrive. I didn't call my parents. They didn't call me. The silence between us felt normal. Which, in a strange way, made everything worse. Because it meant nothing about this situation felt unusual to them. I went to work. Answered emails. Sat through meetings. Even reviewed my upcoming surgery schedule with my doctor. On the outside, everything looked exactly the same. But inside, I was different. I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't doubting my instincts. I wasn't trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I had the email. I had the transactions. I had the timeline. And once you have all three, there's no going back to a maybe. On the second night, I printed everything. Not because I needed to, but because something about holding physical copies made it feel real. Concrete. Unavoidable. I put them into a simple folder. No labels. No highlights. Just facts. The morning of the dinner, my mom texted me. Don't forget tonight at 7. I'm making your favorite. I stared at the message for a second. Then replied. I'll be there. She sent back a heart emoji. I didn't respond. By the time I pulled into their driveway that evening, the sun was just starting to set. The house looked the same. Warm lights through the windows. Familiar. Comforting. If you didn't know what was underneath it. I sat in my car for a moment before going in. Not to calm down. I wasn't nervous. I was focused. There's a difference. When I walked inside, everything felt normal. Too normal. My mom was in the kitchen. "Lauren. You made it." She hugged me. I hugged her back. And for a second, I almost let myself feel it. The familiarity. The comfort. But then I remembered the email. I feel bad not telling her. And just like that, the moment passed. Megan came in from the living room. "Hey. I missed you." She hugged me tighter. Longer. Like she meant it. "Missed you too," I said. And part of me wondered. Did she know? Or was she just the beneficiary of something she never questioned? My dad walked in a few seconds later. "Lauren." "Dad." We didn't hug. We never really did. "Dinner's almost ready," my mom said quickly, like she was trying to keep everything smooth. We all sat down a few minutes later. Same table. Same seats. Same routine. If someone walked in, they would think this was a normal family dinner. And for a few minutes, it was. We talked about work. Megan mentioned something about her honeymoon photos finally being printed. My mom asked about my doctor's appointment. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "I'm okay," I said. "You're not worrying too much, right?" I looked at her. No. Because I wasn't. Not about the surgery. Jason wasn't there. He had texted saying he was busy. Part of me wondered if that was intentional. Like maybe he knew something was coming. Or maybe I was just reading too much into everything. Eventually, dinner ended. Plates were cleared. My mom brought out dessert. And that's when I knew. This was the moment. I didn't rush it. I didn't interrupt. I just waited. Until everyone sat back down. Until the conversation slowed. Until there was space. Then I reached into my bag and placed the folder on the table. It made a soft sound. But it was enough to shift the energy. My dad noticed first. "What's that?" I looked at him. "Something we should talk about." My mom's expression changed immediately. Slight tension. Slight concern. Megan just looked confused. "What's going on?" she asked. I opened the folder slowly. Took out the first page. And placed it in the center of the table. The bank statement. The one showing the $22,000 withdrawal. 8 months ago. No one spoke at first. My dad's eyes moved over the page. My mom froze. Megan leaned forward slightly. "What is this?" I kept my voice calm. "It's my surgical fund." Silence. Then I placed the second page down. The transaction breakdown. The pattern of withdrawals. Dates. Amounts. My mom's hand moved slightly toward her glass. She didn't pick it up. My dad didn't say anything. Megan looked between them. "I don't understand." Then I placed the third page down. The email. Printed. Clear. Undeniable. We could move some money from Lauren's account temporarily. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because the moment my dad read those words, everything changed. His posture stiffened. My mom looked like she had stopped breathing. Megan's face went pale. "What is that?" she asked, her voice smaller now. I looked at her. "It's the conversation where they decided to use my surgery fund for your wedding." Silence. Heavy. Thick. Unavoidable. Megan looked at my parents. "Is that true?" My mom opened her mouth. Closed it. Then opened it again. "We were going to replace it," she said quickly. "That wasn't the question," I replied. My dad finally spoke. "We did what we had to do." I looked at him. You took $22,000 from my medical fund without telling me. It was temporary. It's been 8 months. Silence again. Megan shook her head slowly. I didn't know. I believed her. But it didn't change anything. Because whether she knew or not, she still benefited from it. I leaned back slightly. Still calm. Still steady. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here because I want the truth. My mom's voice broke slightly. We didn't want to stress you. I almost smiled. Because that excuse. It sounded exactly like it did in the email. You didn't want to tell me, I said. That's not the same thing. My dad's expression hardened. It was a family decision. I met his eyes. No. It was your decision. The room felt smaller. Tighter. Like everything was closing in. Megan looked between us again. What happens now? That question hung in the air. And for the first time, I allowed myself a small pause. Because this part mattered. What happened next wasn't about emotion. It wasn't about anger. It was about consequences. And they had no idea yet. Just how prepared I was for that part. No one spoke after Megan asked that question. What happens now? It just sat there. Heavy. Waiting. I looked around the table. At my mom, who looked like she was holding herself together by force. At my dad, who had already shifted into that defensive posture I knew so well. At Megan, who looked like her entire understanding of the last year had just cracked. And I realized something in that moment. They were all waiting for me to react emotionally. To cry. To yell. To make it messy. Because that's what would make this easier for them. Emotion can be dismissed. It can be redirected. Explained away. But facts? Facts don't move. So I stayed calm. I already removed you from the account, I said, looking at my parents. My mom blinked. What? I spoke to the bank, I continued. You don't have access anymore. My dad's jaw tightened slightly. You did that without talking to us? I held his gaze. You used my money without talking to me. That shut him up. I let a few seconds pass. Then I continued. I also requested full transaction records. My mom's face drained of color. My dad leaned back slightly. Lauren. There's more, I said, cutting him off gently. I slid another page across the table. This one wasn't from the hospital. Or the bank. It was from a law office. Megan looked at it first. What is this? I consulted an attorney yesterday, I said. That sentence changed everything. Because now this wasn't just a family conversation anymore. Now it was real. Legal. Serious. My mom shook her head quickly. Lauren, that's not necessary. It is, I said calmly. My dad's voice dropped. What exactly did you tell them? The truth. Silence. Then I explained. Joint access doesn't mean unrestricted use, I said. Especially when the funds are designated for medical purposes under my name. My dad scoffed slightly. We're your parents. That doesn't override financial law. That line landed harder than anything else I had said so far. Because it wasn't emotional. It wasn't personal. It was factual. I tapped the paper lightly. The withdrawal for $22,000 can be legally classified as unauthorized use of designated funds. Megan looked at me. Are you saying you're suing them? I shook my head slightly. No. My mom let out a breath. But I wasn't done. I'm saying I could. My dad leaned forward. Lauren, don't be ridiculous. I'm not. My voice stayed even. I'm being very clear. I looked directly at him. You made a decision that involved my health, my money, and my future, without including me. He didn't respond. Because there wasn't a response that worked here. So I continued. I'm not asking for explanations anymore, I said. I already have them. I tapped the email. You thought I wouldn't need it. Silence. I want the money returned, I said. There it was. Simple. Direct. Final. My mom's voice came out shaky. We can't just. Yes, I said gently. You can. My dad shook his head. That's not how finances work. I held his gaze. Then explained to me how taking it worked. That shut him down again. Because every argument he could make would only make things worse. Megan looked overwhelmed. I didn't know, she said again, softer this time. I nodded. I believe you. And I did. But belief didn't undo what happened. It didn't change the numbers. It didn't fix the decision. My mom reached for my hand. Lauren, we were going to fix it. I pulled my hand back slowly. When? She didn't answer. Because there was no timeline. No plan. Just intention. And intention doesn't pay hospital bills. I leaned back slightly. I'm giving you 30 days. My dad frowned. For what? To return the full amount. My mom's eyes widened. All of it? Yes. My dad shook his head again. That's not realistic. I didn't respond right away. Then I said something that made the room go completely still. I've already spoken to the hospital. My mom's breath caught. They're expecting payment schedules soon, I continued. And I made it clear that I will not be covering funds that were already allocated and removed without my consent. My dad stared at me. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, if the account isn't restored, I pursue legal recovery. Silence. Real silence. The kind that settles deep. Megan looked like she was about to cry. My mom actually did. My dad, for the first time that night, looked uncertain. Not angry. Not defensive. Uncertain. Because he finally understood something. I wasn't bluffing. I stood up slowly. I'm not doing this to hurt you, I said. I'm doing this because you made a decision that hurt me. No one stopped me. No one argued. Because there was nothing left to argue. I picked up my bag. Then paused for just a second. And added one more thing. Also, don't ever tell me again that I'm the one who doesn't understand responsibility. Then I walked out. The drive home felt quiet. Not heavy. Not emotional. Just quiet. Because for the first time in a long time,